they may not do it the way that is safe,
Mhm.
right? So the general we so there is a lot of things that is required when you are actually selling food. We're not discouraging vending, okay? But vending have to be done in a controlled setting
Mhm.
because of the nature of the food products. It have to be in a controlled setting. Hence, that's why the government have built certain facility to facilitate that kind of activities, like the fish market. You have the fish market, and you have the two newly renovated or newly built facility to accommodate the vegetable or produce, the sale of produce. And these facility have the infrastructure to support that kind of activity.
Mhm.
On the road, you don't have the structure. Not every structure could facilitate that kind of activity, that the sale of food, because you need some things in place.
Mhm.
For instance, you need solid waste management, things in solid waste management, liquid waste management. You need cold temperature. You need cooling device, equipment.
You're speaking
Yeah,
specifically for, is it seafood or
seafood,
overall?
and in terms of the produce, I'm talking both.
Okay.
So the issue is that we is in encouraging persons to basically utilize the facilities that is provided
Mhm.
for that because they are built specifically to facilitate that kind of activity.
Okay. And right. So you mentioned where, which institutions or which buildings are built specifically for
Yeah,
fish and
and fish
vegetable
and vegetable
and fruit vending.
and food vending.
All right. Now, in terms of do's and don'ts, right? When you said that on the street, it's not fit for the sale of these items, it is a common practice for vendors to spread maybe a bag or some cardboard or something on the ground. What are some of the do's and don'ts as consumers? What should we not purchase?
Practically, it is not safe because you have your food products have to be elevated, even 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 if they are ground provision, and you still have to take them home, and you still have to wash them and prepare them. It is better that you have them elevated. That's the ideal, to have them elevated. Then you have to provide refuse receptacle or cabbage bin
Mm-hmm.
because they will be get generated. Even as green waste, there will be some form of refuse, and the persons are there sitting, and they will have to take snacks, they will have to eat, and they will have to provide they have to provide the bins. The place, some of the place you can, in terms of beams, running water and those kind of things. Some of the you just cannot have those kind of things there. Okay. So basically, when the produce have to be elevated. It have to be elevated. It have to, well, the person, in terms of the person purchasing,
Mm-hmm.
it have to look fresh. There is no there's no spot defects on the
Mm-hmm.
produce, especially those that are placed in plastic bags. You have to ensure that you inspect your bags properly because persons look to put defective food stuff
In the
inside the bags.
middle.
The
Mm-hmm.
next thing again with watermelon. Watermelon is because of the high water content. It can spoil easily. And you have microorganisms, you have the movement of traffic. That's why we have an enclosed place because you have the traffic, you have persons going on things, blowing the microorganism will be run a risk of contamination. So watermelon, I will personally ask the persons be careful when they're buying watermelon because if the person who is cutting watermelon, if they're not practicing sorting hygiene, food safety hygiene. They'll use a dirty knife when they cut other produce. They'll use a dirty knife and they'll cut the watermelon and they put it to seal it and expose in the sun and so forth. And then it spoil easy. It's spoil easy. So it's best that you purchase a whole melon. You might not have the money to buy.
Might have
It's
to
best.
team up with some of your friends.
It's best. But if you know of a vendor who is reputable, somebody who's reputable, I knew that they practice sorting food safety way how you go and you observe. Sometimes you must observe before you purchase. Observe him how he cut the melon, what he is doing. If he is handling different things, he's eating, he's chewing, he's smoking. You have to look at
There
those
is
things
money
before you
too.
buy. Yeah, yeah. But because I remember recently I met one of the coconut vendors, right? And they have to produce a thing to take up their shells and so forth. They cannot be trained in any gutter and so forth,
Right.
right? They close. So I passed and I noticed he was selling the coconut and he had a cigarette in his mouth while he was cutting the coconut. So when I turned, I said, "Listen, kindly take that cigarette from your mouth." He said, "Oh, sorry." But he was about to touch the lady mug that she brought with the same hand I take the cigarette out of the mouth to touch. So I had to tell him, "No, you can't do that." So you can't be eating. There's certain things you cannot be doing when you're doing. But even as produce, you just can't do certain things. You have to make sure that you have some good health practices, even with the vending. And so
Right.
forth, right.
So for the vendors, Marissa, are they put through training? Is there like a certificate? Maybe the Ministry of Health and the Kingstown Town Board, they team up to provide that sort of training or workshop or reinforcement. Is that a thing?
Currently, there are
Come
none.
forward.
Currently, there are none, but that is exactly how it ought to be.
Mhm.
And the conversation had already started with Ministry of Health in order to start regularizing certain things. As a matter of fact, we are still in the phase where we are trying to clean up the market, right? And part of that cleanup requires that we work along closely with Ministry of Health in checking produce, because Mr. Williams would have mentioned sometimes persons tend to hide away, spoil the produce, to minimize waste, but again, poisoning people, right? With good produce. So we will be working along with the Ministry of Health to start, because actually it's part of the regulation and it's something that should have been happening. So we are gradually enforcing. Each time you hear a story in the media is when we just reinforce something that ought to be. One of our major problem and concern that we are facing in the market, talking about inside of the market, because the majority of vendors would have already went back in. They started back the same pattern that they had on the street where they're used to vending on the floor. We are seeing instances like that where we have vendors at the entrances of the markets and in the pathways and stuff like that, vending on the floor. So right now we are actually in the process of sending out memos and letters to give person time, because that is how we normally would do it first. We'll inform them first before we start enforcing to please go back to their stalls, because persons have stalled. But again, it has already been a culture where they're used to vending on the floor for some reason. Some persons are still doing that. And with that comes littering, another main concern. Sometimes persons tend to thief chance and go outside on the road. Those are persons who are not permitted to vend on the road, right? There are persons who would have got permission from the warden, such as the coconut vendors, phone cards, newspaper, fruits, just to name a few. And those persons would have given letters with specific instructions that they are to adhere to, or else the permission can be revoked. And there are those now who tend to run outside and secure themselves between these persons. And after the fair, they'll leave all of the garbage right on the floor. Right on the floor. We've been getting complaints from business houses, that constantly have to be moving persons. Right now, we're working along with the police closely to monitor, persons coming back, because it's a system. Today is a good day, tomorrow one or two might come back, especially on a weekend, on Friday and Saturday. That's the problematic days. Basically, in a nutshell, that is the main issues right now to date that we are experiencing in the market.
So
Yes.
go ahead.
So to touch on a little bit on the training, if the vendors usually receive a training, all vending, all sale of food, eatables, drink, if we could drink, things that could drink, they are considered to be food. And once you are selling these things, you need a food handler's certificate. We provide the training for the food handlers, and the department usually encourage persons to do their medical, or we'll organize twice per year. We'll organize food handlers session that we invite the food handlers, the hucksters, that is the vendors, and all shops, supermarkets, restaurants, snack. We invite them to the training, and in most cases, the doctor usually there that they do the medical. So they do everything one time, the medical and the training. But there are some persons who do not come for the training and who do not go and get a medical. But it's a requirement that they have to do. So we kind of in a supportive role with stakeholder, the tongue board, to ensure that these persons are medically certified and they are trained, so they know something about handling food. So we just probably need to work more closely in iron out some other areas and so forth. But we are working on that. And I'm glad for this opportunity that I could speak along with the tongue board.
So essentially, it's a work in progress. Part of that work in progress or end goal, if a vendor does not get the adequate training or goes to the training, what are the repercussions of not having the prerequisites for selling food to the general public?
Well, we have our part to play in that. If we pass at any food services, maybe a huckster, fish vending, we ask you to produce your certificate, your medical certificate. And if you don't have the medical certificate, we can very ask you to discontinue the sale or the sale of food. It's simple as that. We ask, and we do it in some cases. We have asked persons, you have a certificate, they don't have a certificate, they don't produce one. We say, you cannot sell. You have to remove from the facility or wherever you are, and you have to try and get the necessary thing. But if it's working through, let me tell you, if there's a system that is built that when the person approach, like they would need spot coming up carnival, a lot of persons going to get spot to sell to the seller for vending. And if when they approach the tongue board, which I know will happen in the distant in future, that unless they could produce, because unless they could produce the medical certificate, not the medical but the food handler certificate, you can't get the spot. You understand? That is how we have to go. We have to work with the stakeholders who work together, so that in order for things to run smooth, once they don't have certain documentation in terms of they have been trained, however, and they go to the tongue board for a spot, the tongue board will ask them, okay, you have a medical certificate and things like that, and they don't have it, then you
can't get
it. They will not be offered a spot once
you can't get a spot. You can't get a spot. And this is the way we had to go in terms of kind of clamping down on the vending. Because once somebody is trained and certified, there's certain requirements that he have to follow.
I see it being a little troublesome because culturally, we don't ask vendors or food handlers let me see your certificate.
Mhm.
We're hungry. We need a bag of potatoes, some meadows or something, a slice of watermelon, and we say, "Hey, look, somebody selling over there. Let me go and purchase." I see that as being maybe a setback, and why some food handlers or salespeople have become a bit complacent
Yeah.
with doing what they're supposed to do.
That is that is probably discouraging in that persons may not. That why person will end up setting up place illegally. Let me put it in a term, are going and selling a little hustler, also hustler because they don't want to go through the proper channel
Mhm.
and so forth. They don't want to do the run risk and so forth. But it make my job a little bit more tedious. But I still will have to check these people, and I have to when I meet them, I ask them if they have a medical certificate and work with them to get it. That's
Okay.
what I do. Yeah.
So if a customer comes back and complains, or maybe somebody purchased some produce from the vegetable market, let's be more specific, and they end up getting food poisoning, who do they go to complain? Do they go to the vendor, the Kingstown Town Board, and ask for Miss Endeavour, or do they go to an environmental officer, the Ministry of Health?
If the food affect them, they will seek to come to the public health department to see if they could have it redressed. And then the public health department will have to touch base with the facility
Mhm.
where they made a purchase and work out, straighten out the issue.
Okay. So it's
Yeah.
even if I go to the Kingstown Town Board, I still be redirected to
Yeah.
public health.
Yeah, public health. Where there's a public is involved and somebody have been come down with food inoculation or food poisoning, then we have to be involved. We have to be involved in it.
Sometimes the tricky thing is you don't even know the source.
Yeah.
Correct.
If you get ill,
Yeah.
Correct.
some people don't even know they're experiencing food poisoning. It's just like, oh, it's a
So-
little upset stomach.
Yeah.
Get over it.
So to mitigate against that is to ensure that person, we are trying to ensure that persons practice proper hygiene in terms of those who are selling and so forth. And the general public, which is a stakeholder really, who doing the purchase, they must be very observant, and they should know that, for instance, let me just, in terms of the purchasing of fish, fish vendor, purchasing
Okay.
of fish, okay?
Going into the fish aspect, I'll take up a little bit of
Okay.
time, right?
Right.
So we're gonna take a stop right now, take a break, and then we're gonna come right back because it's 8:31.
Okay.
All right, this morning's edition of Cop Chat. I feel by the time we're finished talking, I'm not gonna want to buy anything in town because I'm going to like observe everything as you mentioned.
Right.
You have to like stand and observe and pay attention
Yeah.
to what they're doing. If
Yeah.
they're managing
You have to
money
look
and
at
then going to pick up
managing
this
money
and
and things like that. Yeah, you have to look at all these things. And I
Now give me a new
come forward.
now give me a new perspective on watermelon, because
Yeah.
I normally would purchase sliced watermelon for my daughter. So
Yeah,
I basically just learned a wealth of information on that.
yeah.
Another reason why the Kingstown Town Board and Ministry of Health must and ought to work closely together with one
they
another.
need to have kind of more
A closer
collaboration with each two.
that is true. All right, so at this time we're going to take a break and come right back on today's edition of Cop Chat. BRB.
Thinking of winning the lotto jackpot? Well, there is an easy way. Combo Play. Choose 4 numbers from 1 to 36. That's a combo 4 at a cost of $64. Match any 4 of the 5 numbers and win the lotto jackpot. There's Combo 6, where you purchase 6 numbers for only $12. Match any 5 of the 6 lotto numbers and hit the jackpot. How about Combo 7? That's a purchase of 7 lotto numbers for $42. Match any 5 of the 7 numbers and you will win the jackpot. There are also Combo 3, Combo 8, and Combo 9 lotto plays. Visit the NLA headquarters in Pauls Avenue or WhatsApp 495-6886 for more details. Lotto, you have to be in it to win it.
Operating a business these days can get really complicated. What if someone slips and falls? What if you get robbed or burglarized? What if the truck crashes and you lose everything? What if one of your employees get damaged? What if your product makes someone sick? Worry no more. Let Century Insurance protect you from those what ifs. Century Insurance, offering employee liability, workman compensation, public liability, cash and goods in transit, bonds, professional indemnity, contractors all risk, and more. Talk to one of our friendly agents today. Call our Kingstown office at telephone number 456-2247 or Beckway 458-3855, or contact our representative, Mr. Jason Sargent, in the Bayshore Mall in Beckway at 454-4260. Call Century Insurance today. We can protect you. Century Insurance, upstairs the First St. Vincent Bank Building in Kingstown.
People's Pharmacy, for all your pharmaceutical, skin and body care needs. Located on Grenville Street in Kingstown. They open 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday to Saturday. Call them today at 784-456-1170. People's Pharmacy also stock vitamins and supplements, personal care items, toiletries, children and adult pampers, and much, much more. And of course, get your prescriptions filled by a friendly and professional pharmacist. People's Pharmacy. Come in today and let us serve you.
Beautiful white and black sand beaches, lush mountains and valleys, rivers, hidden waterfalls, and multiple islands and islets. St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We are a friendly people, welcoming tourists from all over the world, with exotic boutique and luxury hotels, and a hospitable business environment. Let's make all tourists welcome at our international airport, on cruises, on yachts, on sailboats, on land and sea tours, at beach lines, at our restaurants, shops and bars, and at our national festivals. St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Tourism is everyone's business. Live it, love it, embrace it.
Tourism is everyone's business. Yeah. Live it, love it, embrace it.
That's the sound of your animals. Strong, healthy, and delivering yields you love. That didn't just happen. It began with you feeding them only the best. East Caribbean Feeds. Rest assured, we only produce your feeds with premium ingredients. No hormones, no animal byproducts. Just everything your animal needs for maximum nutrition. Because your animals deserve only the best. East Caribbean Feeds from Maximum Nutrition.
St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It's a whole new world out there. Reaching new customers and getting products faster. That's what it's all about. Ocean freight rates are skyrocketing, so don't pay more for slower service. It's time to switch to faster, more reliable air cargo service with SkyMax Cargo. Up to 3 flights weekly to and from the USA, Puerto Rico, and the Caribbean islands. Providing excellent import, export, and e-commerce solutions to put you ahead of the competition. For special low rates on small packages and air cargo, contact SkyMax today. 784-456-5400. Local agents SwiftPack Interprime Cargo. Call 784-456-5400 to book your shipments today.
WEFM is SVG.
All right, welcome back to Activated Mornings. This morning for Cop Chat, we are talking about vending and public health. Some of the issues that exist today, and some of the things that the Kingstown Town Board and the Ministry of Health are trying to do to implement to prevent food poisoning and ill health on consumers. Hopefully, by the end of this conversation, you are not too discouraged, but you are made more aware of what you should be paying attention to in terms of protecting your own personal health and the health of your family.
Yes.
All right. And of course, it would lend itself to helping the overall cause. There's a call coming through, so you might want to put on your headphones, please. All right, let's take this one before we get to the fish vending. Hello, good morning.
Yes, good morning. This is WEFM, right?
Yes, please, and you're live on air.
Yes, I have a problem here in Vermont here. This Thomas Wise man is now going on for over a year now, and the police is not doing anything about it. I put it in the newspaper twice.
Okay, caller,
And,
hold a second. Does it have to do
yeah.
with vending in Kingstown or public health?
No, this
No?
has to do with public health.
Okay,
It's
so
to do with Land and Survey Department.
Okay,
I
well-
received a letter from
so
and
here's
the
what.
authorities.
Hello. Hi.
Ah,
So it
yeah.
is unrelated to what we're talking about this morning, and we don't have anybody to address the issue this morning during cop chat. So now is not the perfect time to address that. Maybe
When is
tomorrow
the
morning.
perfect time? Hello.
Maybe tomorrow morning we can accommodate your request. All right.
At what time?
Anytime
what
from
time in
8
the
o'clock.
morning?
Anytime from 8 o'clock.
Okay, well, I will be on the air so that you could possibly notice it.
No.
And expect them to call them.
Okay, so tomorrow morning at 8, we can address your problem. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you so much. All right, so let's talk about fish vending. Some of the problems with fish vending.
So one of the vending that the public health department is concerned about is the sale of fish, not at the facility, the fish market, but on the street, just outside the market, persons selling fish. The nature of fish is that they have a high protein content, and protein fall under acidic, and it could easily spoil. It was taken out of the sea, that it was controlled, and they bring it and they expose it to the land. So therefore, you will have to have the facility like ice to put it on ice and sell it. So you don't want to be buying fish from persons or selling from a plastic bag. It need to be in a ice, it need to be on ice. It compromises, because fish will spoil easily, and they start spoiling easy. And then when the toxin, they give off toxin. When you spoil it and it start to deteriorate, it gives off toxin, and the toxin is very poisonous. I know Christal, you would have heard the term.
I feel like I know what you're saying.
Bun mouth
So that's what
rubbing.
that's what it is?
Yeah, spoil it when it starts spoiling.
Uh-oh.
And person traditionally used to use fish to give poison to poison dogs and so forth. That is push fish head and so.
Are you
So
serious?
the thing is, you have scrumboid fish poisoning, and it could become very severe. I make an observation when I pass around the market, and along with they're selling the fish in bags or selling it in a container, a little bit of ice, I notice they have some personal items, like they have a little alcohol, a water bottle, a little lime, and the ice with the fish. And these are the personal items, and it run further risk of contaminating the food. So these persons who selling, and you tell them that they're not supposed to be selling out there. They're not supposed to be selling out on it. And I'm advising the person, the general public, if they need to purchase fish, purchase it at the fish market.
Go inside.
Go inside the fish market and they purchase it.
Yeah.
And this is because that when you purchase fish in the market, you know that they are controlled, because they have ice. They have the facility, they have the freeze and everything facility. So the fish is not exposed to ambient temperature, like the room temperature, for a considerable period of time. And it's better because that is the facility have the infrastructure in place to facilitate that kind of activity.
That's why it was put there, right?
Yeah. So when you go and you buy fish out, you're putting yourself at risk for food poisoning. So fish is one of the sensitive food, and there's a lot of persons in the community. There are a number of persons in the community, apart from getting fish poisoning, they have allergies to fish, to seafoods. And if you have an allergy to seafood, plus the fish is starts spoiling, and you eat that, what do you think happens? And you have the allergy already to seafood. So we are discouraging persons from purchasing fish. And by this same breath, persons who are selling fish outside of the facility itself, we are discouraging you to sell fish there. Okay. But we can't, sorry to cut you off, Christal, but we cannot, even if we meet persons selling outside of the fish market, and they have a insulated ice box and a well packed ice, and they do it real good,
right?
And they have on the
hair
net and so forth, and they may have a source of water that when they want to wash their hands or whatever, and they're doing it good. The part that the tongue board come in is that the space belongs to tongue board, is the custodian for the space, so the space belongs to tongue board. So if they don't get the permission to be selling there, because they have the market, so nobody will get permission because you have the fish market there. So the tongue board will have to deal with it with the help of the police to deal with it. Because really and truly, if somebody practicing good food hygiene and they have the necessary, like the food handler certificate and everything like that, we have asked them to get it. Okay, we have asked them to get that in terms of the selling. But in terms of dealing with the removal of person that's selling particular places and areas, because then we need more stakeholders in play to help deal with that. I don't know if
as you're talking about that, I am remembering when you walk through town, especially on a Friday, sometimes vendors who are selling fish, they'll be walking up and down with a bag of fish in their hands, Robin, 3 pound 10, something like that, and then you would witness people buying
because they're not aware.
Come forward.
Because they're not aware.
And then they fry the fish and think about mouth and they wonder why.
Yeah.
And then there's sometimes they're sitting on the side of the road with a bucket. Sometimes they're selling tree.
Yeah.
I have bought tree just like that.
All of us at some point.
Because culturally it's acceptable, right? But it's not healthy.
No.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, Marresa. I don't know if it's what day, but how often do you have to ask persons to return to the market, whether it's fish or vegetable?
At least 4 out of the 6 days, because market days are Monday to Saturday, and like I say, it's coming on around Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Because around that time, we have what we call seasonal vendors coming to town. Seasonal vendors are those persons who either come 1 day or 2 days, maybe 3. And we also have what we call the pop-up vendors. We do not have information for them. They did not register to the Kingstown Town Board, but because the culture were already there, where persons would come in, they get some produce, maybe they come in town, they try to knock off some because maybe they have too much at home. So persons will just come down, stand up on either on the gallery in front of a building where you see they have the tomatoes on the window edge and things like that. Why? They would not come to the Kingstown Town Board because they did not register for the Kingstown Town Board. Because for the latter part of last year, we would have first a series of time we would have conduct registration. We would have captured those persons who vend daily, those persons who vend on weekends, those persons who are seasonal vendors, like for example, persons who tend to come out around Carnival, Christmas, Easter, stuff like that. So what we are realizing now, we are all almost about 90% there. But what we're realizing is new faces keep popping up. So we might try to curb the issue where we get person to go back in, and here comes 3 new faces on the street, and that will motivate those persons on the inside to take a chance and go back out.
House rent there. Yeah.
So it's even minor no.
Yeah.
Right?
Wow.
So that is why now the Kingstown Town Board is now sensitizing the public so they would understand what is happening, because oftentimes when we have operations where officers are instructed to go out with police to remove persons who do not have permission to vend on the street, it will create public stir, because persons tend to capture and disseminate what they want the public to see or what they want the public to believe. But the thing is, there are facilities to accommodate persons, even those persons who just want to pop up and come into Kingstown and vend. There are facilities to accommodate you. We even go as far last year as to flee the car park on a Friday and Saturday.
How's that been working?
Just so we can house enough persons who want to come to an event, because we realize it's beyond our control at some point in time, because we cannot dictate on a given day who will pop up. Because like I said, it's new faces keeps popping up. And if we discourage them and say, we're sorry, you can't sell, you have to go home, it will motivate them to go back on the streets of Kingstown Town Board. And we don't want anybody infringing on the regulations or the Town Board Act, which expressly stated that there is a fine attached to it, and there's the warden or the police can arrest persons and charge them. We did not want to pull out the big guns just yet, right? So we were using a system where we will ask persons to come inside and maybe use in the circle, use in the yard, use the space provided at downtown market, where they can go if they so choose to come to and sell. But another problem that is creating now, the persons who have stalls are now feeling motivated to leave their stalls and occupy those spaces provided for those persons, right? And again, that sometimes push persons either to vend in the hallway, on the floor, or go back out on the street, because sometimes it creates conflict in the marketplace, especially on a Friday.
How many vendors do you have to manage on a day-to-day basis? Maximum?
Right now, I would say like close to 1,000 or more.
Yeah.
Because like I said, the number is growing. At the time when we conduct registration, it was 800 some. Right? By the end of December, there was additional 100 and something. And today, new faces keep popping up. Because like I said, vending, the way vending in town was done for some time, is persons feel maybe at some point in time I consider myself a vendor. Because it's recently I found out that even to stand on the sidewalk with a bag dropping off something to somebody is considered illegal vending.
Yeah.
Christal, I know you're guilty of this.
I am leaving the building.
It's considered illegal vending.
I did not know that.
I recently
Ignorance
found
is
that
real
out
bliss,
when I
boy.
was going through the documents, because it states once you do not have the consent from the Kingstown Town Board, that being the warden, whether once you stand in a position for too long, and the regulation states unnecessary, and you have the intent of exchanging goods or merchandise, you are in fact partaking in illegal vending.
Do you know how many times I've done that?
I admit,
I'm wondering who monitoring that.
How can you, right?
manage-
You have to have like somebody randomly. There's a call coming through. Let's take it really quickly. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Welcome.
Yeah, good. So the representative, what's the title of the representative? What's her title in job title?
Marresa Endeavour. She is a deputy market manager for the Kingstown Town Board.
Chief Deputy, and Borgen is
The warden.
he's
The
he's
warden.
one.
He's the
Okay.
warden.
And as part of preparing for training and so for the job, did you guys visit like other markets in the region and see how they operate?
No, we have not. There are a lot of information in the in the media and on the internet for us to, pull our information from.
I think that Georgetown, Guyana, they need you guys, Borgen and you, to be there to help clean them up. It's one of the worst places I've ever seen the market.
One step at a
Overcrowded, the sidewalks are overcrowded. It's filthy, the drains are filthy, that pallet, filthy pallet there. You can't even get in the main market, Starbucks market. If you see vendors in that place, thousands and thousands of vendors.
I've gone to the market.
It's the most filthy market I've ever seen.
I've gone to that market.
Oh, well, I guess we are so.
And I hope.
Badly.
So St. Vincent, so it's chalk and cheese. If you think St. Vincent is bad, anybody would think St. Vincent is bad with the vending.
Okay.
Just go to Georgetown, Guyana, and you see.
But the
Most
mission is to
filthiest place I've
become
ever seen.
the leader in the region. Safest, healthiest.
No, well, they have
Yeah.
they have more money than us. They could do a better job.
We have resilience
cleaning that
and
place up.
willpower
And natural resources.
and natural resource. Plenty water.
They have natural resources. They have oil. They have gold.
We have the will.
They have backside.
And where there's a will, there's a
Okay,
will.
okay. And you have the education revolution, which they don't
You
have.
had to throw in
All
something
right,
like
have a
that.
good
Eh?
day.
You had to throw in something political if you don't name. Thank you very much for your call. All right, so we got
Christal, in regards to the caller, all of the world persons, in the Caribbean too, there is a mindset. So the same practices that bring the market like that in Georgia. I've gone to the market in Georgia. I fast today, and I think when the past administration, that is Granger, was they had a cleanup. They had extensive cleanup and so forth. And it was okay, cleanup, but person will lull back in the practice, certain practice, they lull back in it. And this is what we don't want. Because if you don't make any effort, if you don't make an effort and you're not consistent, persons will lull back. You see, they will lull back in the same old practice, and you don't want that. You don't want to say that, okay, then compare. And not to say that he's comparing, but compare and say, okay, well, St. Vincent is good because other countries I go quote unquote and look at the market and so forth. But person mindset. And once you're not addressing the thing and you're ensuring that they do what they're asked to do, you'll have problem. And sometimes it gets so out of hand that it become a norm and it's harder for the authorities to deal with it.
right. What we're trying to do is to change the culture to a clean and healthier one. Somebody is saying, good morning to all in studio. Is it possible to enforce vendors to put prices on their items? Vendors are usually charged a different price from locals. Visitors, sorry. I could give you a story on that. But
you know what the funny thing is? It's actually a part of the regulation.
Yeah.
There are like 50 plus, right?
That prices should be made available for the public. Because I've heard of stories. I even encountered recently too, because my guest person said, well, she's a manager now, so I can't charge her the same $2. Right? So I went over downtown market to purchase some items that I would have already called over to inquire what's the price for XYZ. Yeah. And when I went over, the price doubled. Yeah. And the vendor joke,
I would double my exit.
The vendor joke and they say, well, you take me from off the street, so I have to make back the money. And I just laugh it off because the idea is to motivate persons to stay in. So I have usually I would purchase my vegetables and stuff from inside because you want person to
you want to
see
set
that,
an example,
you
right?
Understand that management themselves, okay, we don't necessarily take them off of the street of Kingstown and place them as they just call in prison.
Oh yeah.
Right? And nobody's supporting their business. So I tend to go in at the market and I buy from persons in the market.
Yeah.
Lead by example.
But it's just that because I too knowledgeable in that regards to look out for certain things, I tend to stick to specific vendors.
Right.
You understand?
Yeah, vendor would love that.
Yeah.
They have their own clientele and so on.
By extension, Christal, apart from the prices, please, that the customer could see, I want to draw attention to persons who are selling local juice. And I've encouraged some of them to touch base with the Bureau of Standards.
Right up the road there.
Yeah, right
Yeah.
in there. So that you could at least have a label, so you could know the content of your juice. You could place a little label, you know, what you label. What the people is drinking when they have the bottle, they take the bottle, that's
They drink what they tell them they're
Right.
drinking.
So all these are improvement persons can make in terms of the display of food for sale, food vending. It won't hurt them to place little, information to say, okay, then this food, especially when it's displayed in a glass, this food contains milk. This food contains C. Because there are some persons lactose on top, have allergies to allergic to certain allergens like seafood
peanuts.
and so forth, peanuts and so forth. It's not to just inform them, this is all these will enhance you and further protect the customer from being affected from what they eat.
You see, the thing is, right? I cannot recall anybody ever being prosecuted for selling something that might have made somebody else ill. And that is like the worst case scenario. Somebody ending up behind bars or somebody having to pay a fine for not having a certificate, for selling on the ground, for selling one-mouth fish or something like that. How far away from enforcing strictly on vendors or salespeople? And then we're trying to.
I will comment. There's always an issue in terms of enforcement, because before you get to enforcement, there have to be some kind of monitoring. So it's always a challenge in terms of enforcing the laws are there, but in terms of enforcement, some persons preach persuasion. They persuade the people, but at some point you will have to make an example, and you'll have to, because there's offender, there's persons who perpetually do things that they know they're not supposed to do. So these are, and I think I believe, I may be wrong, I believe they're not the majority. Those are just minority and so forth. So we still work with the public health department, we still work with certain persons, already law is there, we still work with them and give them chances and chances. So after time, when you see things going out, then you definitely have to draw the line, you definitely have to see, you have to pay. But what we usually do, we can ask you to close. We can ask you to close. For instance, if we go and we do like a food establishment, even a vending, but street vending and so forth, and you don't have the required thing, and you give your time, and the time come and still no improvement, then we ask you to voluntarily close until you get the necessary things. And if you don't want to close, we will have to force you to close.
Do you like put out a notice to the public? Restaurant XYZ was asked to close because they didn't comply.
No.
Are there like lists that are published in like the newspapers on online sites?
No.
List of restaurants that are compliant?
No, we don't do that. I think other countries.
I like to say a list of compliant restaurants.
There's countries in the Caribbean, who usually have those food services.
It's like liquor licenses, right? Yeah.
Food services that is up to £2 and so forth. I think it will be a deterrent it will be a really big deterrent to have
asking
you
for
know.
Yeah. If I don't see my favorite thing, I ain't going back there.
You will be putting a lot lot of incentives out of business. Let me leave that there.
Oh,
we
boy.
should do that.
Oh no, man. Oh no. 9:03, by the way. We're a little over time. So we have to wrap things up. We didn't even speak about the additional stakeholders in Kingstown that you see sometimes jump upon the pallet when rain coming. The rats.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to take a minute to just like touch on that really quickly.
Well, let me just touch on it. The reason Kingston is considered to be a hotspot
For
rodents. Hotspot because of the activities. You have a lot of food services, and the thing is that most establishment should have food establishment that is should have a grease trap. So the
Grease
grease trap. They trap the food part, they trap the grease, the food particles in that grease trap, and the final effluent will go to the. I prefer that is ideal. Go to the central sewer system, so you don't have no drain with food particles. If everybody could get connected to that, you understand? It's a way of there's no particles in the drain, so the rat don't have food. Rats are wrong because there are three basic things they need, and they ain't wasting time. If you don't have those three basic things, they ain't coming around you. So three basic things: they need some food, they need somewhere to live, and they need a little water, and somewhere to live with a shelter. And if you deny them these three basic things, they're not going to stick around. They're not going to stick around. So in Kingstown, you have all three in abundance. And then what puts strain? When they clean up, when they take the vendors and them off the road and so forth, the rats was demonstrating.
they
They
had their own
was
little
annoyed.
protest.
They was annoyed because the thing is, why you deny them now of certain sources of farming. So quickly, we had a project, we had a program recently that we are beating Kingstown and so forth. But we are going to continue. But we want to get the general public involved. That is, and other stakeholders like the supermarket, and tongue board, everybody to be involved too. Because if we don't have the stakeholders involved, then we cannot do much in terms of, because the rat will still be provided with food and so forth. So we need everybody on board. And quickly, in terms of when you go in to buy a fish, certain things you have to look for. One, you have to make sure that the fish don't have a over fishy smell.
Rank.
And it smell like ammonia. And make sure that when you touch the fish with your finger, you could touch a fish with your finger. And if the flesh sink and do not bounce back out, then it's spoiled already. Don't buy that fish. If you look at the eyes of the fish and you notice the eye looking red and cloudyish, don't buy it. It starts spoiling. Oh, these are some of the things that you look for in terms of buying a fish. And then,
now you're gonna got me walking around poking people fish.
Well, you have to do it for your safety. That's why the person should go into the market to buy the fish. So you don't have to do poking in the market.
Bring me that fish.
Okay, but you could recognize when a fish is spoiling.
You know what? I'm going to look for a hook and a line and we'll catch my own fish. Marresa, to wrap things up, maybe, yes. Thank you so much. You have to go. All righty then. So Marresa, we'll wrap up and leave the final words for you. All right, from the Kingstown Town Board.
Okay, so basically, I just want to urge the general public to desist from purchasing produce on the street. One might ask, how would I know who has permission? Each person that is permitted to vend at specific areas on the street of Kingstown should have a permission letter with them. So it's in the best interest for the public to ask for that, But when you continue to purchase from persons on the street, you too are helping. You're not helping the situation, right? Remember, we are in this to help all parties involved, not just the vendors. There are the business houses too. You understand? So go inside the market, buy from persons inside, because buying from persons outside just means that you're entertaining it. And what we at the Kingstown Town Board is trying to do basically is to create order. I know there's a negative stigma connotation attached to Vincentians that we're lawless and we don't like to follow rules. Let us all work together for the greater good. Understand? We're not trying to oppress anybody. We're not trying to victimize anybody, take food out anybody's mouth. We have facilities to accommodate everyone who wants to vent. It's just that we have to do it in a controlled and mannerly fashion for the greater good of the town and by extension the country at large.
All right. Thank you very much for joining us. And there you have it, Cop Chat for today. There's another part of Cop Chat, but we have to take a break and come back with that. We're going to give away a ticket to a catamaran cruise on June the 3rd. No, we're doing it today. The cruise is the beginning of June. All right, so you got to stick around to find out exactly how you can win that ticket this morning. Thank you so much for joining, listening, and of course, keep it locked. Thank you.